Welcome. I'm Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. So today, I'm going to be reviewing Stephen King's novel, Misery. As you know, if you've been following these reviews, I've been reviewing every Stephen King novel in order of publication. We are to Misery now, hardcover up here, paperback here. I also am following along in each book to the audible.com narration. The voice actress who narrated Misery was Lindsay Krause. She did a good job. I was kind of hoping it would be Kathy Bates. It wasn't. But we'll say Lindsay Krause did a good job. So for this video, normally I got Christmas lights. The lights are dim. The candles are there's like a ton of candles lit. Give it an eerie Stephen King creepy feel. I didn't want to put all that shit together this time. I didn't want to get all that bullshit out. So you're getting a low budget version of the video of the reviews today for Misery. I am Stephen King's number one fan. Number one fan. There's only one celebrity in the world that I wish to meet, and that's Stephen King. That's Stephen King. I'm his number one fan. Number one fan. That's from the book. It's the opening lines of the book. Kathy Bates did it much better in the movie. She really did. I think she won an Oscar for the movie. Nobody's given me an Oscar for anything I do on this channel. Ever. But I am Stephen King's number one fan. I'd really like to meet the guy. I don't want to kidnap him or anything and hobble his legs, kneecap him or anything like that. I don't want to do that. I just haven't got the energy. Stalkers and creepy fans and things like that. Maybe I'd do it. I just don't got the get up and go. I just don't have it. It's not in me. I'm lazy. Fundamentally, I'm a lazy human being. I just haven't got the time to kidnap someone and make their life miserable. Maybe if I was more ambitious, it would have happened, but I'm not. And the world is a better place because of my laziness. I'm his number one fan. Now, if you've been following my reviews, you know that I work at the Utah State Prison. For the longest time, I had kept it on the down low that I was an author. And then some of the prison guards started reading my book at work at the prison. And the inmates were like, "Hey, what you reading there, prison guard?" "Hey, it's Sergeant Durfee's new book he wrote." And the inmates were like, "Durfee wrote a book? Nah, get the fuck out," right? And then my pictures in the book, and then suddenly every inmate at the Utah State Prison's, "Hey, Durfee, you write a book. And it got so annoying that I finally just donated a whole bunch of copies of my books to the libraries, and now every felon, gangster, murderer in the state of Utah knows that I have written books. And I'm just waiting for the day where I'm tied up and gagged and someone's standing over going, "I'm your number one fan. Your number one fan." Because it's alarming that every felon in the state of Utah has read my books. But what can you do? What's done is done. Anyway, Misery. What about Misery? The book itself, Enough about me. What about Misery? It's a good book. Hey, I remember when this one came out. I read it. I liked it a lot. Haven't read it since. Watched the movie several times in the interim between when I first read it and when I just reread it for this review. And it's one of those things that suffers from the movie kind of doing the story better than the book. And sometimes that happens with Stephen King stuff. Sometimes the movie is so iconic and the actors did such great jobs. James Caan and Kathy Bates did such a great job in the movie that it sort of overshadows the book. And you kind of grow to like the movie better than the book. So when I reread this, I remember reading it the first time and thinking it was awesome. And I remember now rereading it this time thinking it's still pretty good, but, wasn't as good as I remember. And I love the movie so much. So what can you do? What do you do when that happens? It's like effing cockadoodie, dirty bird, oogiest. It's the oogiest thing. Again, I can't do Kathy Bates. But the cockadoodie movie effing ruined the book for me. That's what I'm trying to say. Basic plot is there's a novelist named Paul Sheldon. He crashes his car. He is rescued by one of Stephen King's greatest villains of all time, Annie Wilkes, who rescues him. She's a huge fan of his. It's like her favorite novelist just happened to crash in her front yard. Well, down the street a little bit. She gets to rescue him and nurse him back to health, but she's cuckoo. She's effing crazy. She's cockadoodie nutso. And she does some real oogie, grotesque things to this guy because she saves him and takes him back to the house, nurses him back to health, keeps him as a captive, forces him to write books about her favorite character, Misery Chastain, and thus we get the Misery. And it gets oogier and oogier and oogier from there. It gets real oogie. This cockadoodie book just gets so freaking oogie because you've got this famous writer, and Stephen King is known for having a lot of his protagonists be writers and authors and novelists. And so we get to see things through the eye of a creative person who's been held captive in just having real oogie effing things done to him. She tortures the guy. That's the whole story. That's the plot. It's a basic plot. That's the whole plot. That's basically it. Now that was oogie. I don't know what just happened there, but that was oogie. The cat who usually tips things over in the middle of my videos is not even in the room. But yet, we've got stuff happening. I don't know, man. These Stephen King videos starting to creep me out. Each one of them's haunted in its own way. It's getting worse and worse. Anyway, what do I think of Misery? It's a good book. It's one of his iconic books. Annie Wilkes, arguably one of his greatest villains. I liked this book because there was no supernatural stuff in it. It was not a monster movie. There was no people with the shining that could see into the future or any of that. It was a straight up, I'm going to kidnap you and torture you type book. And there's just, quite frankly, not enough of those in the world. There needs to be more. Misery, I give it a solid 8 out of 10. I liked the book. Stephen King is my man. I'm his number one fan. I'm not going to kidnap the guy, though. I'm just going to review his books. Read his books, review his books. Be a huge promoter of his stuff. My fellow Simon & Schuster author. Want to promote him. 8 out of 10. Gosh, I think we're about a third of the way. We might be a fourth of the way through all of the Stephen King books now at this point. in publication order. We're to Misery. We're into it now, folks. We're into it. Can't Stop Now. I'm going to do all 80. All 80. Anyway, 8 out of 10. As you know, every book I write is dedicated to Stephen King, Motley Crue, and the Oakland Raiders, because those were the three most important things to me when I was a kid. So they get a shout out in every book review I do and every book I write. 8 out of 10, Misery. Number 1 fan.